So colleagues, we are back in open council. I would entertain a motion to go into committee of the whole to consider reports. If I got to have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Williams. Please use your e-scribe to vote. So colleagues, that is carried. So we are now in committee of the whole to consider reports. The first reports are finance reports. And there's 12 point municipal funding agreement, Canada Community Building Fund, 7-story residential building. So if I could have a mover and a seconder for those two finance reports, Councillor James, Councillor Nowak, please use your e-scribe to vote. Councillor Harris, have you cast a ballot? Councillor Harris is with us, but his tablet has gone to sleep.
Are we still on YouTube?
So colleagues, that is carried. We will now vote to approve the items from Community and Health Services Committee held August the 13th. It is 12.2.1, several sections under it, and 12.2.2. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Salonen. Councillor Verbanovich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can ask for 12.2.2 to be dealt with separately, so I can speak to it. The EMS station. We're doing both.
Okay. So we'll do the first one, 12.2.1. It's been moved and seconded, and then we'll go on to the second one. Colleagues, that is carried. We now are at 12.2.2. Moved by Councillor Salonen, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Councillor Verbanovich, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And unfortunately, we'll have to vote against this motion again today, as I did at committee. To the best of my recollection, I've always supported any investments for EMS that have come before this council. I also believe that the new ambulance station needs to be built and want to support it, but believe it needs to move forward in not only a timely, but also a fiscally responsible manner. Like some of you, I know there's interest around this horseshoe to see housing or daycare as part of this project. And we heard of interest at committee from Councillor Liggett to potentially see a partnership with Cambridge Fire. However, based on the information shared with Council in the report, I don't believe I have the information necessary to demonstrate that sufficient due diligence was done to consider the pursuit of these options. In 2024, in a world of immense budget pressures on individuals and institutions, a desire towards sustainability and a housing supply and affordability crisis impacting many in our community, I personally don't believe it's acceptable for governments to be building a single-use facility like this. Yes, I know pursuing these options would take some additional time, but I believe that is what we should be doing. I'll also note, Madam Chair, that during the debate on this issue at committee, an issue I clearly feel very strongly about, I understand some individuals may have felt one of my comments was not reflective of the values and approaches that they have individually brought to this issue. That was certainly not the intent, and I extend apologies for any offense that may have been taken by some people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vavanovich. Councillor Salonen.
Can I just have a point of clarification that I'm going to vote on what I think we're voting on? Is this the one that has three parts? The first part being my motion, then the second part about the municipality of Waterloo approving the proposed changes on Benson Street. It's that one that we're voting on, correct?
I'm going to ask the clerk to clarify because I asked the same question.
Okay, thank you.
So under 12.2 under committee reports, we just voted on 12.2.1, which was the CHS summary that staff moved forward with operating model as proposed under with a maximum of 66 residents serving single women. That was the one we just voted on. Now we're doing part two of that, which is the regional municipality of Waterloo take the following action with respect to regionally owned property located at 651 Concession Road. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for asking the question. You did. You clarified. Okay, I'm going to call the question. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please cast your ballot. Yeah. Colleagues, that is carried. I am so glad we're now all on the same page. So we are now looking at 12.2.2, Sustainability, Infrastructure and Development Committee, moved by Councillor Salonen, seconded by Councillor James. Councillor Vavanovich, is that a legacy? Okay. Seeing no further speakers, I would ask you to cast your ballots on e-scribed, however you choose, Councillor Deutschmann. Thank you, colleagues. That is carried. The next agenda item.
Point of order. In light of all the delegations we had, can we just clarify, was this a unanimous vote? I mean, I can see it is, but I'm just saying for the benefit of those listening.
So for those who are watching on YouTube or in live streaming, that was a unanimous vote as it was in committee.
Okay, thank you.
So now on to the audit committee summary. I need a mover and a seconder. This is for the recommendation the KPMG be our audit service for a term of 5 years, moved by Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Hunick. Please use your e-scribe to vote. Colleagues, that is carried. The next report before us is Library Committee Summary. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Salonen. I see no speakers, so if you would vote on that. Thank you, colleagues. That has been carried. We're now going to vote to approve on items from the Licensing and Hearing Committee meeting today. And I would just remind all of us who were at that, that there were 2 motions that were approved, and there was one that will be referred to council on September the 25th. So it's done in order to make sure that anybody from the community that would want to comment on a proposal that's been put forward by Conestoga Meats, they would be able to come and delegate. We've also offered the opportunity for anybody who delegated today to come back, and it gives enough time for the rest of council to come up to speed on the documentation that was supporting that request. So if I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Nowak, seconded by Councillor Foxton. Please use e-scribe to cast your ballot. Colleagues, that is carried, and you are a phenomenal group as we move forward with 12.2.6, which is Sustainability Infrastructure and Development Committee Summary from August 28th, 2024. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Williams. Please use your e-scribe to vote. So colleagues, the next agenda item is 12.2.7, Administration and Finance Committee Summary, August 28th, 2024. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Deutschmann. Please use your e-scribe to cast your ballot. Thank you, colleagues. You know what? I'm really seeing how much is left, and I think maybe we should entertain a motion to extend past 11. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Salonen. Please cast your vote. They're switching to put it up. We'll put it up in a minute. It's basically saying that we can sit past 11. I had hopes we'd make it by 11, but I don't know if I can talk that fast. Councillor Babanovich, when we're waiting, can you please thank your mother for letting us know that the live stream wasn't working at one point? I'm taking note of anyone that votes against this. Counselor McCabe? That is carried, much to the chagrin of Counselors Deutschman and Harris. Colleagues, thank you very much for that. We now are going to vote to approve items from Administration and Finance Committee meeting earlier today. No, close. We did that. We're going into close now, and Clerks has just put up the two motions that are before us that we dealt with earlier today. One is about a land swap, and the other is about passenger facility fees. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Salonen, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Please use e-scribe to cast your ballot. Colleagues, that is carried. I would now entertain motion to consider other matters under Committee of the Whole. If I could have a motion for Committee of the Whole to rise and Council to resume. If I could have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Shantz. Please use your e-scribe to cast your ballot. We're voting on Committee of the Whole to rise and Council to resume. Councillor Deutschman? That is carried, colleagues. I would now entertain a motion to adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. If I could have a mover, moved by Councillor Salonen, seconded by Councillor Wolf. Please cast your ballots. We're adopting the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole. Colleagues, that is carried. We now are going to consider a notice of motion. Councillor Hunick has provided a notice of motion that she will be bringing forward tonight. Before Councillor Hunick speaks to the motion, is there a seconder for this motion? Seconded by Councillor James. Councillor Hunick, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
Yes, sure. The impetus of this motion is that 3 years ago, before Wave Calgary was implemented, people with disabilities in Calgary who needed accessible taxis were in much the same position as those in Waterloo region, meaning that depending on time of day and place, people are waiting up to 2 hours per day for a taxi, which is not acceptable in Waterloo region. Councillor McCabe and I were I was overjoyed to experience the Wave Calgary experience, which meant that we got a taxi in 15 minutes or less every time that we called. And so I really think there is a gem in the Calgary model, and I would like to see that imported to Waterloo region if possible. And so I've asked staff to look into that for us. And the timelines provided in this motion were also developed in consultation with staff and clerks to make sure that it fits within their scope of work.
Thank you, Councillor Hunick. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hunick, for bringing this forward. I think it's fantastic, and certainly anecdotally with my dad's mobility issues, have experienced how difficult it is to get an accessible taxi in the region. I was wondering though, as I've not experienced the City of Calgary's centralized wheelchair accessible vehicle dispatch, what does that look like? Like, is it similar to the City of London where it's just mandated every black cab has to be wheelchair accessible, or if you could just elaborate a little bit on what exactly we're asking staff to research.
Staff is going to provide a fulsome report that will give us all those details, but my experience of it is that not every taxi in Calgary is accessible. Those that are connected to a central line, and so it eliminates the competition between the accessible taxis and makes sure that everyone is working together such that when a person who needs an accessible taxi will call, the cab that's closest to them that is accessible will come regardless of the company from which they originate.
Great, thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Bravanovich.
Yeah, thanks. Just very briefly, I'm pleased to support this. I want to thank Councillor Huning for bringing this forward. I've had to use these services with my mom when we go out for dinner or to visit friends outside of the long-term care home where she resides, and sometimes, quite frankly, the experience can be like all of the drivers are really great, but the experience of trying to get someone, particularly if they happen to be doing a run to Toronto or Brantford or something like that, which happens particularly at special occasions, makes it really challenging. So I think this could be a real help for everyone who needs that service.
To further what Councillor Bravanovich has said, and in support of the awesome accessible taxi brokers that we have in the city, in the region, it has been improving a lot with the increase of accessible vehicles in our region, and so that's really great, but it could be better, and I would like to see the wait times for an accessible taxi be more comparable to taxis that are not accessible.
100%, you're absolutely right, and I will give them a plug because a bunch of them got a whole bunch of new Toyota vans, and they're awesome.
When we were at licensing and hearing today, we heard that accessible vehicles went from 16 to 25, so it's moving in the right direction, and that's incentivizing taxi services and individual cab drivers to take the expense of having their vehicles customized to being accessible. So good news, and this is more about the distribution and the service of getting the actual cabs. So we need more cabs, and we need a better service of distribution. So I see no other speakers, so it's been moved and seconded. Please use your icons on your e-scribe to vote. That was carried unanimously. So good job, Councillor Hunick. Does anyone wish to submit a notice of motion for a future meeting? Not looking too hard for this. Okay. Any unfinished business? Councillor Bravanovich.
Well, new business, actually.
I'm sorry?
Actually, questions.
Okay. Councillor McCabe, do you have unfinished business?
I was going under other business, if that's different.
Okay, we have one other business and one question. So other business will go to Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, and I'll be brief given the hour, but I just, I was concerned about some comments made earlier today in the, this evening, I guess, in the Administration and Finance Committee, when there was comments made by one of our colleagues about, you know, our reports coming and we're not actually reading them, and we're just blindly accepting them and accepting staff recommendations as they're presented. And I just, you know, and reflecting on that over the past couple of hours, I just wanted to state that certainly is absolutely not the case. I don't believe that any of us just, you know, take that approach. I think we all take our roles here really seriously. And you know, the report that was in question, that was under discussion, we have had at least 3 reports on it. We've had at least 5 memos on it. So certainly this was something that again was not new. There was previous decisions and discussions that had been had on this, and so I was upset. I was, I'll just say, I think, offended by that suggestion that some of us are just kind of blindly accepting the recommendations that staff made, and certainly, open debate and discussion are always welcome. But as I said, we'd already had 3 reports and 5 memos on that. So I just wanted to sort of get that off my chest because I just think that was a really unfortunate thing to have said and expressed around this table. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think the hallmark of a good council, this is always a group effort, and we can agree to disagree and move forward. So thank you for that, Councillor McCabe. Other business, Councillor Bavanovich.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Mr. Sweeney, and it's something that we've all heard about in the last day or two, and it's concerning some issues that we're having with one of our technical providers that provides the software, as I understand it, for those who are signing up for after-school programs at the public and Catholic school systems. And as I understand it, there was a fairly large group of people that were originally told they had a spot and now have found out they don't have a spot as school is about to start next Wednesday. And obviously I can, while I don't have kids myself, I know many people who do, and that kind of news is pretty, challenging as people are, trying to work and do everything that they need to do. And so I'm just wondering if we can get some information from Mr. Sweeney for the benefit of those listening around what happened and what we can do to try to correct the situation with our partners.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bavanovich, and through you, Chair Redmond. I'll also commit to putting this into an email notification for everybody later tonight or tomorrow. So this year, both school boards used a new registration process through something called One List. One List is operated by a separate entity called One HSN. The registration process has had many delays and challenges since launching in June, and most recently, which is alluded to, approximately 200 families across both boards received notice that they are now on a wait list for extended care, despite previously receiving confirmation that they were enrolled in the childcare program. To be clear, this is what's commonly referred to as before and after school programming in the schools. There are 2 main concerns, as we understand them, that the demand for extended care has grown substantially, and there is not enough capacity within the school boards to meet that demand, primarily due to staffing shortages, something that we've experienced across the entire childcare spectrum. The registration software used by both boards, One List, had a number of technical issues which resulted in miscommunication to families and a number of other challenges. I want to be clear that while the region of Waterloo, through our service system manager role, also has a contract with One HSN for the overall childcare waitlist in Waterloo region, each of the school boards has a separate contract related to their registration process that the region is not directly involved in. Our understanding is that school boards are working diligently with the organization One HSN to resolve these technical issues. What we've been able to do is continue to work with our partners at both school boards to provide both short and long-term support. I also want to be clear that funding is available to support additional capacity in before and after school programs if the boards can staff and operate the programs. Children's Services staff are working with all of our licensed childcare operators, including the school boards, to develop staff recruitment and retention strategies. I will, in my email communication to you, provide you with some language that you can use should you receive resident inquiries. So there's a lot of information around. I want to also further acknowledge the frustration that families must be feeling in accessing and especially dealing with technical issues that right now seem to still be in place. And so I do want to empathize and acknowledge with those families. And again, so we are working with our school board partners. This is really at its core a technical challenge related to a contract that the region does not hold. But given that there's some crossovers with the organization and with a similar list, We're obviously doing everything we can to support our colleagues to ensure that families have access to the care that they have, and working against an entire system challenge around staffing shortages across licensed childcare, both be in schools and licensed childcare centers. I hope that helps. And again, I'll put some of this in writing. You'll have that tomorrow.
Thank
at the
you.
latest.
That's
Councillor
great.
Pravanovich?
Yeah, thanks so much, Mr. Sweeney.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Appreciate that
asking.
info.
That was a very timely question. I think all of us have had outreach to us, so thank you very much for that fulsome answer. Any more questions? All righty. Then we're going to go to, I'd consider a motion to enact the bylaws first, second, and third readings. It's bylaw 21.1 to 21.6. If I could have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Hunick, seconded by Councillor Craig at the urging of Councillor Foxton. Please use your e-scribe to cast your ballot. Councillors Deutschman, Shantz, Harris.
Come on, there it is. I was named, I have to leave now. Thank you.
That is carried, colleagues. And I do want to point out that it is not quite 11:10 on my watch, and I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. You guys did great. Everybody wants to move it. Councillor Harris, Councillor Deutschman, would you like to second this?
Yes, pleasure.
Please use your e-scribe to vote. Great day, lots of good work. Thank you all very much. If you've closed your computers down, just put your hand up. Colleagues, that is carried. Have a great evening.